Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon for Finding the Right Talent, Franchise Hiring Best Practices. Today, the content is sponsored by JazzHR. And just a reminder before I kick it over to our speaker today, this will be recorded and available on community.franchise.org later today, along with today's PowerPoint deck. And then if you have any questions for our speaker today, please be sure to put them in the chat and she'll address them at the end. All right, so to get into this, again, sponsored by JazzHR, and today from JazzHR, we have Amanda Friedel. Amanda, I'm gonna kick it over to you.
Good afternoon and good morning, and thank you, Caitlin, for having us. Thanks for the intro. So my name is Amanda Friedel. I'm a VP of Strategic Partners over here at JazzHR. I've been at JazzHR about 2.5 years, but I have a pretty deep, you know what, can we mute the crowd? Caitlin, is that possible? Okay,
yes,
I think it may
doing that now.
Okay, thank you. I was getting some echo. Sorry about that. So again, I'm Amanda Friedel, VP of Strategic Partners over here at JazzHR. Been here about 2.5 years. Before my time started at JazzHR, I spent about 10 years in HR tech. So from job boards and other things, I have a deep history of HR tech for good or bad, but hope to share some of my knowledge with you today. So here's what we'll be covering today. So we will be covering the current state of franchise hiring, branding and candidate experience, creating a hiring strategy, screening and best practices, and retention and ROI. It's a lot to cover, but I think it's very important and very timely right now in the state of what we're all up against with hiring. So the current state of franchise hiring, and you can see on the slide, again, they'll be shared with you. Prior to the pandemic, hiring was competitive in franchises. There weren't enough candidates to fill open roles. Fast forward March 2020, franchising lost approximately 20,000 franchise establishments. Franchises output declined by 15% nationwide. Big hit, we all know it. It's outside of franchises, it's in a lot of places. But fast forward 2021 outlook, vaccines are rolling out, folks are reopening, all good news. Franchises projected to open more than 26,000 locations and create over 800,000 new jobs this year. That's unreal. And you're being competitive for the people who are out there. Never has hiring been more in the news than now. People can't find workers. I'm up here in the Boston area. The local news shows the Cape Cod restaurants are having a tough time hiring. They're doing limited hours. Some are threatening not to open all summer because they just can't find people to work. Companies are being creative to entice candidates and workers. Free rooms for summer hotel employees, a set of knives for aspiring culinary workers, and appetizers on the house for anyone willing to sit down for a job interview at, I believe it was Applebee's. So people are getting creative to get people in the doors. It's crazy out there. So how can we help get people in the door, keep them there, become a hiring go-to? So 95% of people think that the way a potential employer treats them as a candidate reflects how they would treat them as an employee. So where do you stand? What are you doing today that is working? What is not? What are other franchisees doing? What are your competitors doing? What does your process look like? Are you attracting all the candidates you can? Are you making sure your unconscious bias isn't coming through? Are you reporting on the right metrics to help make sure you're doing your job well and to be able to shift where things aren't working? And are you using the right type of interviews to get people through the candidate process quickly? So let's create a great employer branding experience. There is a lot on this slide. I'm going to go through it as much as I can. While your franchisor will provide you with the basics, it's up to you to generate attention at the local level. Been in the recruitment space a long time, I mentioned that. I joined when we were coming out of the 2008 recession. Employers were, frankly, they were misbehaving. They were letting resumes fall into the black hole, no responses after interviews, etc. You could follow up on your second interview and literally hear nothing back from the potential employer. That was terrible. Fast forward to 2011, 2012, these employers started to see the repercussions of treating candidates badly. Suddenly, they were on the other side of the coin, starting to see less applies. And this all started even before COVID. So fast forward through a year of COVID, where we had already started to see candidates ghosting on the rise. The employer brand is so important of your candidate flow and frankly, your business. You need to make sure that that brand is up for candidate attraction, acquisition, and customer perception. So there's 8 steps to kind of review how you're doing this. Be your own best marketer. How are you promoting yourself? We all think about how we're promoting ourselves as a business, and I'm sure you have help from the franchisors to improve the brand. But on a local level, how are you promoting yourself? How are you reflected as an employer in your local area? Do some research. Review your reviews on Facebook, Google, Yelp, possibly Glassdoor. Reply back to the bad experiences. Acknowledge that, because you know what? People are looking at these sites to see how you're responding. Your career page. Showcase your perks, your benefits, and culture all in one place. It's fun to work here. What are the benefits? Do you have a great training program? You should call that out if you do. If you have education reimbursement, etc. All those are great things to call out and to draw attention, especially to the younger generation. Over communicate. We're all human. If there is a delay, communicate. If the position gets put on hold, communicate. If you get their resume or their reply, communicate, say thank you. If it wasn't a fit, do the same. It pays yields to do that. It also can help create a bench of potential employees in the future. Make it easy to apply. This goes back to the career page a little bit. Are you asking for a 200-word answer to what makes you unique? And honestly, you don't need that question answered for the position at hand. Drop the question. In this tight market, you can't afford candidate drop-off. Also important with candidate drop-off, make sure your application is mobile optimized. The folks that we're trying to attract for these positions, and a lot of the positions are not on their computers like we are all day, but they are on their phones. So make it easy for them to apply where they live. And I always use the easy apply. I have an example for this, real life. I was down in Texas when I was working for monster.com back in the day, and they were complaining about application drop-off. I was like, well, let's take a look at your jobs. So we go on their website, we pull down the site, it was healthcare. And the third question on the application was, what's your social security number? Now, this is a while ago, but nobody wants to put their social security number into someplace they don't know. So yes, they were getting great views, great clicks, huge apply drop off. I was like, you need to take this out of your job ad. And sure enough, they almost had immediate improvement because it was a good job, but you're asking for my social security number. Hope nobody's doing that today, but that's a very bold example of a way you can make the apply easier to attract more candidates and prevent the candidate drop off. 5, the resume black hole. This is just a no. Apply black hole, one and the same. If somebody takes the time to apply for your job, acknowledge it. There's technology and tools out there to automate this. Thank you for your apply. If we're interested in you, we'll reach out to you in the next 48 hours. That's it, as easy as that. If you have knockout questions that knock them out, you can use, again, technology to generate a thanks but no thanks letter, maybe 48 to beyond. Say, thank you for your apply. Unfortunately, your qualifications do not match what we have today. We will keep your apply on file. Same with interviews. Don't ever talk to somebody or bring them in and not get back to them. It just creates a poor experience, and that can impact not just candidate flow, but it can impact your customer flow too. Set time expectations. Again, in this market, no one is going to wait for you if another opportunity comes along. If they have clear expectations that they're going to hear from you on Friday with the offer, they will wait. But if they're not going to. So be super transparent. Number 7, this is something maybe we don't think about. And you know what? Maybe you're the hiring manager too. They're the first impression of the company. Treat them well and they'll represent your brand well. We never want somebody who's disgruntled with us to be a perception of the company for that first conversation. Treat them well. They're working hard. It's tough out there. Make every candidate a brand ambassador. I use another example that's pretty simple. So I go and get my coffee from a local coffee shop most every morning. Let's say I see a sign in the window that says, hiring for baristas. I'm like, I could use some extra cash. I go in there, I take 15 minutes, I apply for the job, I hand in my application. I say thank you and I leave, and I never hear from them again. And I know that I handed my application to a manager. It really doesn't even matter who I handed it to. I'm probably going to think about going back and being a loyal coffee customer there, because it just doesn't feel good. So every candidate needs to be treated like a human, just like you would treat a customer, because sometimes they're one and the same. All right, so how do we execute on some of the things that we just talked about? So we're going to go into creating a best-in-class hiring plan. First, job descriptions. They matter. They still matter. It almost feels like they should be passé at this point in time, but they are so much not. So why do they matter? It's often the first time a candidate is looking, their first impression of your company. So make it count. If you're advertising online, which most of us do, internet SEO optimization, search terms, etc., all help with exposure of the job. It helps them rise to the top of the search algorithms. Google for Jobs and Facebook are known for this. They will deprioritize jobs that don't have location or salary data in them. So if you're going to be putting your job description out there, make it count, make sure it's good. And also worth doing is creating a job description library. If you're like a lot of the companies I work with, you have a lot of rinse and repeat roles. Make sure that role that you're filling for constantly is a really good description. Is SEO optimized? Is it using jargon and some other terms? Put that in a library, rinse, repeat it. Some technology, JazzHR, one of them, can create templates in the system to help rinse and repeat on that stuff. And then of course, be inclusive. Make sure your job description isn't written in a way that puts people off. Don't use age restrictive language. Don't use jargon that some people might not get, and reduce requirements from must-haves. I mean, we all kind of joke about the entry-level engineer who requires 4 years of experience. Just be fair about what the job is, and you'll get more candidates that way. Next, so you've got your great job ad. It's SEO optimized, has the terms in there, it's inclusive, all the stuff it needs to be. Get it out there for people to see. So have promotional signs in your storefront if you have one. On those storefront signs, have QR codes that, excuse me, allow somebody to take a photograph and it goes right to an apply site on their mobile device. Again, it goes back to that easy apply, mobile optimized. Makes it super easy to get candidates in. Leverage social media as a recruiting tool. Quality representation on social media, there's nothing like it. If I like that coffee shop on social media, maybe I want to work there. Employee referrals and bonuses. This has also got a social component on it, because in my world, we share things on LinkedIn a lot. And, friend of friend on LinkedIn sees the job ad, they reach out to apply. Just more exposure from people that you trust. In job boards. So find the right job board for your business. Niche versus general, local versus regional. I've spoken to many companies over the years, and healthcare providers do really well on my CNA jobs because it's nichey. They have a huge database of exactly what you need. Maybe local colleges provide a good feeder system for your open jobs because they either have summer work, they have people looking for that, or they have people right out of college who are eager to get working. And then it's always worth looking, where are other people in your industry getting their candidates? So take a look at where those jobs are posted. All right, this slide might not presenting very well, but this is actually something we just put together. We know as pandemic restrictions are lifted, many businesses are facing a new challenge, finding the staff they need to reopen and operate. So job seekers, it's been a crazy year. They could be nervous to go back into the job market with uncertainty over future shutdowns. Maybe childcare is still an issue. Maybe it's healthcare related. Are you doing enough PPP to keep them protected? I also saw a quote, which is kind of funny. You always told me to go out and get a real job. And now I got one and you want me back, from a bartender. So there's also been a lot of career shifts out there. So there's a lot of dynamics working against, especially like those retail and service related jobs. How does an employer address this? Be transparent in your job post, in your initial interview. Share hours and wages up front. If there's a career development track, put it in the job description. Talk about how they can advance with your company. If you can offer flexible work, again, call that out. It's so important to people right now. How are you protecting your workers? Are you offering enhanced cleaning protocols? Are you providing the masks and the gloves? Again, all important pieces to different people. Call it out. And of course, any upskilling. This might seem far-fetched for some businesses, but some of the processes that help employees grow might already be in place. Maybe you have a great mentor who coaches people through. Use that as a way to recruit more people. Not everybody can be waste management who's now offering educational reimbursement for not just their employees, but their employees' children, which is crazy. But we all have different levels of mentorship and training that we should put in there and call it out. All right, create a base recruiting model. We're recruiting, it's a business process. Optimize it. We talk about it in almost every other piece of our business. Recruiting sometimes gets left behind. Make sure the steps in the process are truly necessary and lead to the desired outcome. The example we can use pretty easily is the on-site in-person interview. We've been doing this for years. Why would we change it? Well, COVID changed everything, right? But also, let's address that we all have a lot less time now. Use a phone screen first. Take 15 minutes to discuss the job and the person. See if there's that initial fit. This may be a quick way to screen out candidates and gauge interest. There you can honestly say, this is a midnight shift. Will you be able to work it? No. Great. You both stay at time in your day. Other items to look at to improve the process: assessments. They can be automatically sent out of your ATS technology. Provide insights on quality and personality traits that lend well to the role. These can be automated. References. We all think we have to check references. Maybe not, because the people I put on my apply for references, I know they're going to give me a good reference. Maybe that's an hour or two that you can get back by not reaching out to them. I know it sounds crazy, but these might be ways to find efficiencies. Offer letters can be done electronically over e-cigs. The point is, the way we were recruiting pre-COVID should be different post-COVID. Trim the fat, so to say. We need to be getting people in the door quickly and through the interview process quickly. Automation and advancements can help with that. All right. Oh, hey, automation. Perfect. Use technology to help with these automations. Obviously, I'm with JazzHR. We're an applicant tracking system. I'm totally biased on technology helping with your recruitment. But there is tons of technology out there that helps your business with processes, from scheduling software to time and attendance to job costing software, et cetera. It's out there. Use it. But automation that's in recruitment software that you should look for are simple things like knockout questions. Let's say you need a plumber. They need to have 5 years experience and a state license. If you don't have that state license, I can't talk to you because it's just a bare requirement for you to show up to the job. Put that as a knockout question. That could filter out up to 30 to 50% of the applies, saving you time of shifting through them. Candidate texting. You see a good candidate, automatically send a text out to them immediately to engage them immediately. Again, on their phone, quickly engage with them to get an interview scheduled. So again, also adding automation, this is really worth mentioning too, especially on those rinse and repeat roles. It reduces lag time and it prevents errors in the process. Let's say a background check is required for all your nursing assistants and somehow you missed it on somebody. If you have automations built in when they go into different stages, you're not going to miss that background check and delay their start date from a week. So all important pieces. All right. Another automation or technology that is worth looking into is interview self-scheduling. So there's a lot of integrations with calendars and calendars and emails out there that can make your job easy. We use Calendly for interview self-scheduling. It's super easy. It works with your calendar, creates a 15-minute or half-hour block, sends it back out to the candidate. The candidate can pick that 15-minute window that works for them, and a calendar item is auto-generated. It's one click that prevents, give or take, about 4 back and forth emails. We've all done this. This takes hours of time and frustration when you don't have transparency to somebody else's availability. This technology in its own saves about 8 hours of time for a recruiter in a week. It's unreal. So again, just technology to help you make it better. And then screening best practices. So remember, we're all human, we're all subjective. We could make a screening error with people, and by doing that, we might miss good candidates. So you can help improve your screening process with applicant questionnaires and interview guides. Again, standardizing that interview. Maybe you have multiple hiring managers, but you create these 10 questions that are asked every single time that can be easily compared back and forth. Standardizing the interview process just makes for a more level playing field. Screening tools can also be really helpful in preventing bias, helps for retention, making sure that cultural fit is there, helps weed out hard skills versus soft skills, and it helps measure success once they're on board, see how they're going against the KPIs from other candidates or other employees. And then employee retention and ROI. I've said this before, it's worth saying again, create career paths, especially right now when things are so competitive. Businesses thrive because of the people, and you want to keep them there. Show them there's somewhere to go and a way to advance with your company. Discover from the start who might work for that. Try to track them into a different role or advancement. I know this is not always possible depending on the role, but try your best to do so. Pay and benefits. We're hearing this all over the place. Hourly workers we're struggling to get them in because of low wages. The unemployment checks, the enhanced unemployment checks that people got, we are competing with them. It's just the reality of that. Those are starting to fade away, but skilled and hourly worker wages are going up. So maybe it's time to reevaluate what you pay, what benefits you offer to make sure you're competitive in the market. And this is worth taking a look at your competitors to see what they're doing, to see how you compare. And competitors, not just that are direct competitors, but maybe just the occupation competitor. See how they're treating their employees. Make sure you're stacking up well. And then culture. Culture is one of those things that is so important. Get excited to go into your job and a lot of us haven't been in the office for a while, but a lot of our franchisees have. How do we make it good for them to be there? We talked about making them feel safe with the protective clothing or masks or whatever it might be, but how else do you appreciate your employees? It's more than just a pizza party. Make sure employees know that they're valued and communicate that. That should yield benefits for not just employee satisfaction, but retention. And then once you have retention, you have less open jobs to fill. So all of this can create less of a circular problem and get you to where you need to be on fulfilling your employment. And wrap up. I said so much, it's 25 minutes. So takeaways, lean on your franchisor and community of franchises. Look into what other people are doing. There's a lot of resources out there. Just by Googling, you can find a lot of info. Create a base hiring plan to be successful. Think like a marketer. What's your brand look like out there? Job descriptions, make them good. Ask the right questions during the screening process. Discover soft skills, make sure they're a culture fit, etc. And long story short, the right tools can save you significant time and money. Okay. Now, I see some questions did land in the chat. Caitlin, do we have anything that came through?
Yes. So right now we have, what are the best practices to reduce the no-shows on screenings and interviews?
So that's a really tough one because we're seeing it more than we've ever seen it before. The best practice I would say is create an apply process that asks some basic questions that might prevent that. Now, I don't think we're ever going to get away from it completely, but depending on the role, if you can ask some initial questions about, are you available to work today? What's your availability? And maybe depending on the role, prior experience that makes sense for, because they might be a better fit. And then you might have to not worry about trying to schedule those interviews because you have a better fit there. And I would also look to engage them over texting, because we find that folks who engage over texting have less drop off when it comes to interview.
Awesome. Okay, and then how do you reduce the possibility of getting someone through the entire interview process and they end up backing out?
Oh, if I had a crystal ball. That's always really tough. And I think it goes down to the process, if it's quick and automated and you can turn that around super quick, even in the best of worlds, you're still competing with the other folks out there. it probably comes down to what are you offering? If they make it through the entire interview process, what is happening in that offer that makes them uninterested? Is it lack of flexible hours? Is it pay? Is it benefits? Remember, we're competing out there for talent. So if they see that offer letter and they're like, oh, I thought I had more flexibility and this person does, that's where you might be losing it.
Okay, our next one. Can you provide more guidance on how to pick which job boards to advertise on?
So without knowing what industry you're in or where you're located, I think you take a look at industry-specific job boards that might cater to that. So, Snag a Job does really well in retail. Harry does really well in restaurants. My CNA Job does really well in healthcare. And then it's so much of location too. So depending where you are, ZipRecruiter might not be the best destination for, where you are in South Dakota, but there might be a local job board there or a chamber of commerce that a lot of people go to look for their jobs. So if I were you, I would take a look on Google for jobs and put in your job title and see where those job boards are. And there might be job boards that you've never heard of, and you can kind of see where people are, like where the advertisement is, because it's a supply demand thing. So if the people are advertising there, they're probably getting candidates there.
That's fair. That's smart. Never thought about that. Next one. Do you have examples of key questions to ask applicants?
Oh, again, not knowing the industry or or what job role you're hiring for. I think it goes back to, be honest about what the job role is and ask them if it's something that's interesting to them. So if that job does require working in a hot kitchen, hey, you're going to be on your feet for 8 hours a day, and but the camaraderie or whatever, is that still something that you're interested in? I think it really does go back to be as honest as possible about what the job is and what the opportunity is. And that's going to create less candidate drop off as you get to the later stages anyways.
And this one might fall into that same realm. What are some easy ways that I can make my job descriptions more effective?
So I did mention this. Don't use abbreviations. Put your location in there. Put the salary in there. I know people hate that, but they perform better. Don't use terms like the one that's coming to the top of my head right now is sales ninja. What's a sales ninja? No one knows what that is. You're a business development rep or you're an account executive. Those are roles that we know. Some of these floaty titles that are out there are silly. What is the job? Put it in there. And those are basics of what it is. And again, you can do SEO optimization like in JazzHR. Let's say you are looking for that account executive, but solutions consultant is also searched for. You can put in that SEO and it will grab that in the algorithms. You can even put in sales ninja if you really want to, but it won't show in the job description. So.
And then you mentioned, you mentioned improving scheduling practices. What does that look like?
So JazzHR is not a scheduling practice tool, but we do work with a bunch of partners that do. So like 7 Shifts in the restaurant industry, they basically have software out there where people can, change their shifts. They see their shifts on their app. If they need to sub it out, they can put it out like that. There's a bunch of software out there that is, frankly, pretty cheap that can help you schedule your folks. And especially when, you're doing it maybe over multiple locations and whatnot, the scheduling software is worth looking into.
Okay. And then last one, and I'm not sure how you can answer this, but what is the best approach to a hiring manager who has high turnover in their department due to low wage, but refuses to increase the hourly pay rate?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think you have to have a frank conversation about they say the cost to fill a role is 8 to 9 times the salary by the time you look at the business, right? So if you have gaps in people who are doing the hiring, what is the true cost of that business gap? Because each hiring manager is responsible for 5 roles a month, and you start to compound that. I think the argument becomes economic, that it's worth paying these people more because the value that they're driving to the business is worth it.
And then last one, we'll sneak this in and then we'll close out. Would you put the salary range in for C-suite as well as entry level and everything in between, or is there a cutoff on title?
Oh, C-suite, probably not. I would definitely do that for more the skilled and hourly folks who their concern is on that. And let's be honest, your C-suite people are going to be negotiating. You don't need to be putting that in the role. That's definitely more for the entry level and skilled and hourly folks.
All right, well, that is all the questions and all the time we have for today. Thank you all for joining us. And Amanda, thank you so much for your time. JazzHR, the whole team, thank you so much for your support today and sponsorship. Again, this recording will be up on our community site along with this PDF. So you do have Amanda and JazzHR's contact information if you have any further questions. Amanda, again, thank you so much for your time. This was great. I hope everyone walked away with some great learnings, and we'll see you on our next one. Have a great day.
Take care.